everybody, welcome back to my channel. I went to the cinema last week. Currently I am in the middle of all of my final exams for university, so I have quite a lot of essays due, and last week I thought I need a break. I need to get out of my place. I haven't left this apartment in days and I just needed to get out and socialise a little bit. So I decided to go to the cinema, as most people do to socialise. And as I was looking at the cinema website, I realised that the film Until Dawn is out and released and is showing, which was such a mindfuck because I didn't even know that it was out yet. I saw the trailer once, like ages ago, and I haven't heard anything about it since, which to me just shows how the film is being received. So I feel like we should talk about it because I have some of my own thoughts. Now, this isn't going to be everyone's opinion, though, considering the fact that I showed up and was the only one for a while until finally two other people showed up, and the fact that I had heard absolutely nothing about this movie. I didn't know that it was out. I haven't heard anyone talking about their opinions yet. So let me preface this by saying I am not a usual horror watcher. It just isn't my thing. I would much rather a fantasy film. It also doesn't help that the trailer itself showed the film as not necessarily relying on the plot of the game, which, what is the point of making a game adaptation film if you're not even going to include aspects from the film? Not to self-plug, but if you haven't seen my last videos where I basically talked about game adaptations that I wanted to be put into films, go and watch it, because I talked about Until Dawn in that and how I wanted the film to come across. That did not happen in the film. So if you want to see my wants going into this and what I was hoping to happen, go and watch that because it did not hold up. There are two ways that I would score this film, based on the games and how it relates to the games, and the film as a whole. Based on the games, this is the worst film. There's very minimal linking to the game. There's no plot point really that follows the game. The only plot points that follow the game is there's two sisters, one went missing and the other is looking for them, and the character of the therapist, which was weird because the whole point of the therapist in the games was that he wasn't necessarily real, and then it was a part of the main character's subconscious. But in the films he was an actual character and was tormenting the group of characters, which I don't hate that idea, but it brings up a lot of questions that we never get the answers to. As for the second point of the film as a standalone film separate to the games, I would say this is not a bad film. I will say the general overarching plot of it being a general Happy Death Day, Groundhog Day, repetitive dying, we have seen it before, so it's not like groundbreaking movement in the cinematic scene. However, I do like the characters and the way they're portrayed. It did feel a little bit, how do I put this? It felt very much like they were trying to make the characters seem very Gen Z and very down to earth, which I don't know, I have likes and dislikes because I'm someone that likes characters to be realistic and I want them to have anger when there's going to be anger rather than just be like, okay, let's chill and kill these people. I want there to be realistic elements of I could see this person on the street, which I definitely did, but there were also elements that were just a little bit exaggerated and didn't really make sense, and it felt like the directors were just trying too hard. Talking strictly about specific plot points within the characters, I have a few things I want to bring up. I mean, off the bat, there were 5 main people in the friendship group, whereas in the games there was 8, I swear. There were a lot. So it's going to be difficult to try and combine characters when you've taken such a big group and narrowed it down. That in itself I don't have an issue with. I understand that there are a lot of characters and having so many there's going to be difficulty giving enough screen time to each person and following each sort of storyline because they split up in the games. I get that. I have no issues with that. However, the characters that were chosen in the original core 5 in the film have no links whatsoever to the original 8 plus. I'm saying 8. I don't actually know directly how many people there were. I'm just assuming 8. The big group, they don't share any correlations apart from the main character Clover having a sister that went missing. I guess I can also pull on the fact that 2 main characters has a relationship, but that doesn't link with the whole past lovers and the diversing characteristics. It doesn't make any sense. They basically just created 5 new characters and sent them on this whole track, which also doesn't follow the direct storyline, which I think is the biggest fucking issue I have with this. I know that the trailer said they weren't going to follow the original plot of the game because they instantly said that they were just going to keep going over and over, and it was different bosses they had to beat. So I should have gone into this knowing that it was going to be completely different to what I was expecting, but I wanted so badly for them to follow that line that when they didn't and it was done, I don't want to say badly, but it was executed poorly, that it just made me more angry and wished they had followed the original concept of the game. Like, if you're not going to follow the original plot of the game, at least give us a storyline that we can see elements in it and that we enjoy. That just completely threw me. Let me rewind. Okay. Let's start with Clover. Clover acts as the Josh in the films, and I say that very, very, very loosely, as the only thing that links them is that Josh had 2 sisters that died, well, went missing and then died, and Clover had a sister that went missing and then ended up dead. Nothing else joins them. The biggest issue I had with Clover is that her whole thing is that she wanted her sister to be out there somewhere because she felt like she was responsible in some way for letting her leave and then ultimately meeting her demise. This is never then resolved in the film. Usually in films like this, they will have their alive sibling meet or find their dead sibling, whether it's in a zombie form or their actual dead body, and they will come to some sort of terms of, I'm sorry this happened, please forgive me, and then they will bury the body, or they will have to end up killing this new form of their sibling, which is a way of being like, I'm putting you to rest, I'm getting rid of this version of you, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. That doesn't happen in the films. In the film, rather than Clover being the one to apologise and kill her sister as a way to like let go, she asks Max to kill her, and then Max blows himself up, which in turn harms her sister. Now, before you start, because I know that there are going to be people saying, oh, but she did kill her sister at the end, she pushed one thing. Narratively, that shouldn't have been the time that it happened. It should have been the time when she had that flashback and that she broke down to Max about how she felt responsible and she wanted to stop him, but then never did, and now she's missing and everything. Narratively, that is when it should have happened, when she should have either let her sister kill her and be like, okay, I am sorry, I'm going to revive from this anyway. You kill me and then we are even, which I would have been all for. But she didn't do that. Like I said, she got Max to kill herself. Kill herself? Got Max to kill her. And then Max blew her up, which doesn't make any sense. And then later, she stabbed her through that massive pipe and was like, okay, I'm sorry. Guess you could have argued that that was just her admitting to herself the first time that she is sorry and that she isn't ready for this, and at the second time she meets her sister, she consolidates it and is like, okay, I'm ready to move on, and that's why she kills her then. But there's no change in character from the first time that she sees her sister and admits that she feels responsible to when she kills her. So there's no development that shows, okay, I've changed, because they edit it all out if it even happens. We don't see it. If it ever happens, it's because of all those lives that happened in between that we never see. But because we don't see it, it seems disingenuous and like she doesn't really heal from anything. I think if I was to change it, I would have liked at some point for her sister to have killed her and for her to have accepted that as like them being even and her taking responsibility and being like, I got you killed, now you kill me and we're even and I apologise and let's move on sort of thing. Because in the games, I'm pretty sure I said, I think narratively it would be so delicious if Josh's sister in Wendigo form had also killed him, because I'm just a little bitch like that. But that didn't happen. She basically just admits that she feels responsible, like 30 minutes later, kills her sister, and then they escape and it's over with and they're like, okay, let's go home. Like, I want to see the character change where she's like, I admit I feel responsible, but I can't let that control me. Now let's move on. We don't see that. We just infer it and have to assume that that's how she feels. I want to see it. It literally takes like 10 seconds for her to be like, I'm moving on. I accept responsibility. But she never does. Separate from the games, we have the 2 characters, Nina and Abe, that are in a relationship. because it is separate from the books and from the books, because it is separate from the game, and I'm pretty sure they are based on characters from the game, but they're also nothing alike, so I'm not even counting it. I'm going to treat them as a couple and as characters within the film because at this point that's all I can do. I really enjoyed these two characters. I think these two are like my top favourite characters from the film. Abe seemed very self assured and confident in himself, even when Nina's friends were making jokes and poking fun at him, saying that this relationship won't last because Nina doesn't last in long term relationships. He wasn't then threatened and like, what the fuck, Nina? We aren't gonna last long, you're a slut. He never does that. He just jokes and smiles and goes along with it. And he doesn't feel offended by it. Like, he's very self assured in himself, and I loved that. And then when it comes to Nina, she's very strong willed. She is very loyal to her friends, and that's something that in the two's dynamic, because Abe is very new to the whole friendship, whereas Nina's known them since they were tiny. Her loyalty obviously is going to override the friendship rather than the relationship, which I thought was so interesting, and I enjoyed that fact. Rather than Abe coming in and making this big announcement of, we can't trust your friends, let's just go, we'll come back for them, it's you and me, which he's going to have because he's not used to this friendship group. His only devotion really is to Nina. So I can understand why that would be his approach. And usually in films, if this happens, the girlfriend agrees and is just like, yeah, fuck my friends, it's you and me, we've been together a week, but you're my whole life, let's just do what you say. Nina doesn't do that, and I really like that. They don't trash her whole personality, they play on it, and she ends up killing him. I love that they keep the personalities as they are and don't try and change them despite them being in this relationship. The issue I have is that they then never really tackle that issue. Obviously, it's only like an hour and a half film, so they can't tackle it too much, and I might be wishing for more than I can handle in a small film, but they never really discuss, even on a minor scale, the fact that Nina did kill him, or at the very least, was the reason he got killed. Well, no, I would say that she killed him, even if not like physically. She told the killer, I don't even know the names, the killer clown thing, to kill him first. As like, fuck you, don't mess with my friends. So it was basically her fault that he got killed. I mean, they were all gonna die anyway, but you know what I mean. Abe is pissed for like 2 seconds and then it's never mentioned again. I can understand being like, priority wise, let's just get out of this place, let's try and survive and figure it out on the outside. But they never say anything like that. They never hint at, we'll talk this on the outside. They just have her kill Abe and then never discuss it again, as if it's like, oh yeah, fair game. No, he would at least have to tackle that issue and be like, hey, what the fuck? Because if this was a genuine, serious situation and they weren't gonna come back and come back and come back, she being the reason purely for spite is insane. And I know that the characters knew that they were going to come back, but surely you'd have some sort of emotional or like psychological disconnect where you're like, I'm obviously going to come back and I get that. But the fact that you were the reason and that you were pitiful enough not to just injure me that I'm going to die, but kill me first. I wish they had tackled it, but they don't. They just ignore it and then move on, and they're seemingly happy and in a relationship at the end of it. The other character I have so many questions about is Megan. I was really excited for this character. I thought this was going to bring an element to the story that we hadn't seen before, which is this psychic character. Almost to me, it felt like the tarot reader that was from the games. Obviously, it's not like a direct correlation, but just having someone that's a bit more spiritual and able to pull on elements of the story, I was looking forward to that, especially when the second night came along and she was like possessed and speaking to the dead. I thought that was going to add something so interesting where she was going to be like a main character point for fueling the main story, which was the whole town sinking and then being vengeful and stuff. But she doesn't. She's possessed once. And it's not like the main killer of that night was a ghost, because the other people died because of the actual person. Like, there's elements of ghost activity, but the actual people are killed by real people. The only person to die from a ghost slash possession is Megan. So it's only her that has that spiritual connection, and yet it's never mentioned again. She could have done so much more if they'd just played it up and made her an integral part. even if they had made it that they try and do some sort of ritual and the ritual goes wrong and everyone gets killed, but just having her be a bit more as a focal point in the group, because it feels so much like Megan basically says that there's a lot of dead people and that there's vengeful spirits, and then she could have basically left the film, which she basically does, because she goes through that door unlike the last night and doesn't come back and doesn't regenerate, which I also have so many questions about, because I'm assuming that she did die back then, because if she didn't die, then surely no one else would have regenerated, because if one survives, then everyone else is dead and they can just carry on living their life. So she must have died. But then why isn't she transported back? She must have done something, or seen something, or spoken to the doctor character that made her stay and be locked up. But it's never mentioned. Like, obviously she's locked in that fucking room and Clover comes and saves her, but she's never, like, said, oh, thank goodness you're here, I got locked up trying to sneak up on him or anything like that. They just ignore her, and it feels so disingenuous for a character that could have been so important and had so much more potential. They basically give her 5 seconds of screen time and then leave her for the rest of the movie. I personally think there could have been one scene, even if it's in like some sort of post credits, or hell, it might be a deleted scene for all I know, but it would have been so much more important if between the scenes where Clover sees her sister, doesn't kill her, but sees her sister and admits that she feels at fault, and there's that whole flashback, to when she actually kills her sister, there should be a scene in the middle where it's Megan and Clover and Max in the whole group, and they're doing some sort of Ouija summoning circle, like they did in the games, linking it to the games any point that I can, when they are doing the Ouija board, or some sort of spiritual ceremony where they end up summoning the spirit of her sister, of Mel. And Megan is able to ask questions, or Clover is able to see her sister in ghost form rather than the Wendigo form, which I have a whole other thing about the Wendigos. We'll get to it. But there should be this scene where they're all summoning round and Clover is able to speak to normal Mel. And it's thanks to Megan. And they have this whole conversation and she says sorry and Mel accepts it, and Mel says that this person is no longer her and that she just wants her sister to escape in any way, shape, or form possible, and that she forgives her and it's not her fault. And Megan helps her overcome this disconnect of feeling responsible for her sister's death, which helps her then go on to kill her sister in that scene where she stabs her through the heart at the end of the movie, pretty much. That would have added so much more for all the characters to see Melanie and say goodbye properly in this ceremony of funeral of sorts. It just adds so much more to each of the characters, when the whole point was they've lost their missing friend or sister and they've gone on this whole road trip to find her, and they find her but she's like a monster and that she's dead now, so they just leave and they escape. There's no goodbye, there's no connection to, oh, I have to say goodbye to this person. Just a 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minute scene of them gathered round doing this whole ceremony, and it could have literally been 10 minutes of just Clover apologising to Mel saying that she doesn't need to feel sorry, that she just wants her to get out of here and she's sorry that she followed her, sort of thing. They all accept it, they all say goodbye, and then Melanie is like, you've got to run, you've got to run, you've got to run, and then someone comes in and kills them. That's it. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. A 20-minute scene of them moving on. That's all I needed. And I would have been happy. It would have closed off so many more plot lines. It would have been fine with me. Even if Mel, she could have answered as well. Like, Abe and Nina could have had some animosity towards one another after, obviously, Nina trying to kill Abe, and Mel being like, you're strong-willed, Nina, I get it, but this Abe seems like a good guy. Just work on it on the outside. Like, move forward. She could have, Mel having a scene. I'm just now realising that having a scene with Melanie where it is Melanie being Melanie and just her being like, I've seen bits and pieces from these last nights of everyone working together, and this is like a good group and everyone needs to work together to move forward and get out of here. That alone would have transformed the film for me, I'm pretty sure. The last overarching critique I have with this, it's not necessarily one, it's two in one, but I'm going to narrow it together, is the whole Wendigo and Dr. Hill things. So many questions that I don't understand Am I being stupid? I feel like this whole video is me critiquing the film. And I'm sorry, it's my opinion. You can disagree and think that it was a great film. I don't hate the film, I really don't. But there's so much that confuses me, and obviously not all of it's going to be answered. I was going to say they might answer it in the second film. I really hope there's not a second film of this. But the way that it ends could very much lead to a second film. I will allow a second film. Allow a second film if it relates more directly to the games and it gives answers for the film. And it's like a connecting thing. But only two. I will only allow 2 films. This is not a multifaceted story. I hate that. Anyway, the thing with Dr. Hill as a character was inside Josh's mind. Like, maybe he went to therapy. I don't actually remember in the game. But mostly he's shown as a figment of in his mind and how messed up it is and how he makes sense of the situation and how he justifies what he's doing. He's not real. And in the film, he works as some sort of mad scientist. But in the games, the way that the Wendigo is summed up is that it's just some sort of supernatural creature. That supernatural creatures are real and that they're in this. I understand sometimes you want a reason to how supernatural creatures are created. I don't want that. Just give me a supernatural creature. Tell me that vampires and werewolves and whatever are real. I'll believe it. Give me magic. Sure, why not? And they use this mad scientist character to explain that the Wendigos only form when you die over and over and over again so much. That isn't how it's portrayed in the games. In the games, if you eat flesh, then you become a Wendigo. I would prefer the fact that it's cannibalism, but I am not only subjected to the idea of cannibalism. If you want to make it that they die over and over and that's what turns them into a Wendigo, sure. My only issue with this then is how are you able to create the science / magic that makes you kill over and over and over again? Because if you want to make this like a sciencey thing by explaining that a Wendigo and these creatures happen when you die over and over again, then you need to have some sort of sciencey, magicy element of why they are dying over and over again. Like, are you injecting them with some sort of venom? I don't know, some sort of sciencey cure for death, where just on the brink of death you stab them with this serum and they come back to life. Like, even that I would have been fine with, but there isn't that. So then I'm obviously gonna have to ask how they are coming back to life over and over again, because you've based it as a science film rather than a magic film. It would have been so much easier if it was just a magic film. And now that it isn't a magic film, the way that the film ended with a little post-credit scene thing, it's not even post-credits really, the after the film prologue? What's it called when it's afterwards? The last scene where they basically show a blank screen changing from the old house to a new house, basically showing that the same thing is going to happen just to a different house in a different location. I don't hate that idea. I will actually quite say I like that idea, especially because, I don't know, in the games, the Doctor did feel very omnipotent. Is that the word? He felt like the boss bitch that just controlled everything. So I could understand why they would make this mad scientist character be someone that was in control of everything. And so having a new house and basically saying that it's just going to happen again and again in different places, I liked that idea. I like that as an open-ended thing. Doesn't necessarily need a second film to show that house, but I like that it's open-ended. I'm fine with that. Still, it raises questions of how the Doctor is able to create a different place or a different house where these experiments are still happening when at the end of the film he's supposed to have died because Clover puts that water and he explodes. So now I'm questioning, is he going through his own 13 times where he's dying over and over again? And is that his death the first time what triggers it, and now he's got to do the 13 days and then he survived and that's when he goes on to do something else? Because I took it as he survived the 13 days and then he went on to do all this creation. Or maybe he didn't even have 13 days, maybe he just created it. But then if he died, that would have been his death. Like, final chance, never coming back. Or at least that's what I assumed. So if he is coming back, how? And if he isn't coming back, who is the new person taking over? Okay, maybe I do want a second film. If they are doing a second film, I need to be in that writer's room. I need to be in that writer's room. I would want to do it based more closely on the actual games, but then it's going to be difficult to do that, knowing that the original game was that his sister went missing, and then that's how they all end up dying, and then they find out that she's dead and not missing. So we can't do that anymore because it seems too similar to. It's already been done that there was a sister that went missing and died, and came back and whatnot. So we can't do the whole sister thing again. I feel like the second film should be more close on the games. I feel like there should be some sort of situation where Josh is the main character, something happened to him. Maybe it wasn't that his sisters died and that he's come to get revenge, but maybe he was going to go to college and then they pulled a prank and the prank went wrong and then he dropped out of college, like he lost his scholarship or something, and now he wants to get revenge. That I would be into. Like some sort of reunion, like they were going to go to college and that they were having this final hurrah over the summer to be like, we're all going to different colleges, we're gonna have this group meeting and then we're gonna go to college. But they did a prank and it went badly, and there was a viral video that ended up ruining Josh's life, and he lost his college scholarship, and so he had to get a job and he's just really miserable in his life. So he decides that after the first year of university slash college is done, they're all going to meet together and be like catch up thing, and the people that went to the same college have like hooked up with different people or they've had a falling out, so it's the first time seeing each other, and there's different people from different colleges and it's their first time seeing each other again at the end of the year, and that's when Josh does this whole prank thing. That's what it should be. This whole thing should be Josh's prank, and that he dies first and then comes back at the end of the film. But no one knows that he comes back at the end of the film. Does that make sense? No. No, he doesn't come back at the end. He comes back at the end, as in like the night. So they had that whole night. They think Josh is dead because he planned the whole prank thing. But then it turns out obviously he isn't dead. But then everyone else dies in different ways. And then they all regenerate and Josh is there and they're like, hold up, what just happened? Why is Josh here? I thought you died, blah, blah, blah. And that's when Josh can say, oh no, this was all a prank. But then after I finished the prank, I went to come and scare you and I got killed by this monster instead. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. And it should be everyone being pissed at Josh to start, because everyone only summoned her because Josh invited them and tried to pull this fucking prank. And then Josh is pissed at everyone else because he lost his whole fucking scholarship. So he blames everyone else. He's like, well, I wouldn't have pulled this prank if it wasn't for you. And obviously they have to go through that whole friendship thing. Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into that. That's what the second film should be. And there's some new big bad that we don't know. It shouldn't be the same one. It should be a different, I don't know, some fucking science backstory where there was originally 2 people that were experimenting on these dead monsters over and over again, and then one split up and it was Dr. Hill, and then this is the other guy. Like, brothers maybe? I'd be into that. 2 brothers? I don't know. My point being, the film as a whole, I would rate a 6 out of 10. However, having a second film that I am in control of and that I help direct, I could bring the whole Until Dawn film / game franchise, the films particularly, I could bring it up to a solid 8, I reckon, 8 and 9. So, only I can do it though, and I need to be on the board for a second film, and I would make it so much better. So take this as my final application. I need to go. This was half an hour of me ranting about how I didn't like the fucking film. They're never going to give me a fucking job, can you fucking imagine? Oh yes, let me just give this random bit that complained for half an hour about how they hated the film. Let's just give them a job working on the second film. Bitch. Comment below your thoughts on this film, because like I said, as a standalone film, it's not bad, it's not horrible, but because it's called Until Dawn and it's based on, well, it was supposed to be based on the games, obviously I'm going to have an outlook of it being linked to the games and how different it is, and when the games give me an expectation it's going to be up here and the film's down here, obviously I'm going to be fucking pissed. Regardless, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, thank you for listening to me rant. Put your thoughts and feelings of the film in the description, in the comments. I am going to go back to working on my essays and wishing that I never started university in the first place. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!